sometimes the issue with our children not wanting to read is that they are still struggling with the mechanics of reading. It always takes time and practice for new skills to transfer over to the automatic processing part of our brain. And until that happens, maybe your child can read just fine, but it is still, it's work. So it isn't something that he or she gravitates towards. An example of that is if you think back to when you were learning how to drive a car and everything was new and there was so much to try to remember, and look, check your mirrors, and make sure you have it in the right gear, and look for traffic, and checking your rearview mirror, and all these different things. And it was kind of tense and stressful to drive. But at some point, driving a car actually switched over to the automatic processing part of our brains. And now when we drive down the road, we still do all those things, but we don't have to think about it anymore. They just happen automatically. And that's what we want to happen with your child with reading. We want them to practice enough that it switches over, all the mechanics of reading switches over to the automatic processing part of the brain, and then they can relax and enjoy reading. So if that is helping you to understand why your child isn't gravitating to reading, the main thing you need to do with that is give them plenty of opportunity to practice. And practicing reading is a lot more enjoyable if we're doing it at a lower level than what we're capable of. So your child is able to read at this level, and that's great. And there will be times when they should be reading at that level, and we should be challenging them. But the majority of the reading that they're doing for pleasure, and in order to get those skills practiced and switched over to the automatic processing part of our brain, should be a lower level than what they're capable of. It will actually allow them for it not to be such a struggle, and for them to not put up so much resistance when you ask them to read. Some of you have been trying to do this type of thing with your child for a long time, and maybe you've kind of given up. But I just want to encourage you that sometimes it can take a long time before your child will actually become a reader and want to read. And I think back to a homeschooling convention I went to several years ago. Mark Hamby was speaking. He is the founder of Lamplighter Books, and he told the story. He's an avid reader now, absolutely loves to read, is publishing all of these classic works, and getting them into the hands of homeschoolers. But he told the story of how he didn't even read his first full chapter book until, well, probably novel, until he was 21 years old. He hated reading that much. And then suddenly his brain clicked and the right book was in his hands, and he became an avid reader, so much so that now he is a book publisher. And I know even in our own house, one of my sons struggled with reading, and we just kept reading. I kept reading with him over and over and over and over, and I felt like we were never going to be able to progress to chapter books. But suddenly he got the right book in his hands. He started reading some Magic Treehouse books, and something clicked. And the next thing you know, he was reading hundreds of books. That year he read hundreds of books. At bigger books, he was reading specifically biographies, which we just happened to stumble upon. And the way we did that was by him trying a whole bunch of different things until he finally found something he loved and went absolutely crazy reading everything he could get his hands on that was a biography. And a similar situation, I know one of my sisters grew up thinking she hated to read, and she never read unless she had to. And then she got to be in her 30s, and she happened to pick up a Jeanette Ogie book, and suddenly she realized she enjoyed that, and she read more and more and started to expand and read more and more authors, and now she loves to read. So, a couple different things to learn from that. One is trying a bunch of different things, getting a bunch of different books in their hands so that they can experiment and see what is going to work for them. Letting them read things that are below their reading level. Don't always try to be expanding their abilities when you're asking them to read. Let them read things that are easy for them, enjoyable for them, that they're going to want to read. I know for myself, there are times when I'm reading books and I'm doing it to try to learn something, and then there are other times when I'm just, it's like, brain candy. I just want to read something for fun, and our kids want to do that too. So let's let them